Welcome. I'm Kari Akins, a member of the Cheyenne League of Women Voters, and I am your moderator for this forum. I thank you for your interest in this primary election in Laramie County. For more than 100 years, the League of Women Voters has been a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that works to help people be engaged in their government, to be informed, and to vote. For these introductory statements, we will start with Mr. Laybourne, then go to Mr. White. Mr. Laybourne, please introduce yourself.
Howdy. Thank you to the League. Your work is more important now, it seems to me, than just about ever. It is so critical that those of us that are fortunate enough to serve in public office have that responsibility expressed through the vote. It's a great honor. It's also a great challenge. I was born in Cheyenne many years ago and have been involved in city government for many years as well. It is my particular interest to represent Ward 1. I live and have lived in the neighborhood I grew up in, and that's pretty unusual, but it is something that is comforting in a way, and you know a little bit more about your neighborhood. It is my particular interest to continue the work that I've begun with the Greater Cheyenne Greenway. We are well on our way to connecting the city. In fact, at the Finance Committee earlier today, we moved on a rather large grant request to connect the Greenway from College Drive over to the new Kiwanis Park. So that is a pretty big and long planned effort. My particular interest right now is making sure that the Greenway comes to downtown Cheyenne. That's something that is very much a challenge, and I hope that we can bring some progress to that real soon. Did that?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Laybourne. Yep. Well, so we'll move right along now to Mr. White. You have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Kari, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for conducting this important forum tonight. My name is Jeff White. I'm a city councilman for Ward 1 for the past 9 years. During that time, I've served as chairman of the Finance Committee for 5 of those years. I've also served as vice president. And in 2021, I was honored to serve with my colleagues as president of council. I've lived in Cheyenne since 1981. I graduated from Cheyenne Central in 1987. And then I moved on to the University of Wyoming, where I graduated with business and public administration degrees. I was honored to intern for both former Governor Mike Sullivan and our departed United States Senator Mike Enzi. Currently, I'm a program manager for the Office of Civil Rights at WYDOT. And before that, I spent 24 years working at Department of Workforce Services. I've been a volunteer for Cheyenne Frontier Days Public Relations Committee for 30 years. I've also done volunteering with Laramie County Library, United Way. I currently volunteer for the Boys and Girls Club, Friday Food Bag Foundation, and Rooted in Cheyenne. And my wife, Christy, and I are also proud supporters of the Warren Air Force Base Adopt an Airman program. I want my campaign to be built on a foundation of progress and forward-thinking approach to our challenges and opportunities. And I want to continue to prioritize supporting local businesses, the West Edge, and the Reed Avenue corridor in downtown, and hopefully continue to lead with stability as a member of City Council.
Thank you, Mr. White. And we do also have Miguel Reyes joining us as a candidate for Cheyenne City Council Ward 1. Mr. Reyes, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, my name is Miguel Reyes. I've been a citizen of Cheyenne, Wyoming for many, many years. I want to say about 35 years. I'm an immigrant from Mexico. I basically learned all the English language on my own. Things that I have accomplished over the years, I have accomplished, I was honored at the Hispanic Caucus of Washington, D.C. at the age of 22. I created several programs within the foster care agency. I created WAY, Wyoming Advocates for Youth. That is a program that goes out there and advocates for youth and foster care and out-of-home placement. I created that program because it was a need and something that we needed to do for the state. I also created other programs such as the Cheyenne Volleyball League here in Cheyenne. That's the CVL program. We have partnered with the school district a few years ago when the school district had shortened funds. So we offered free volleyball to the youth of the school. Things that I've done a lot of things. I'm also a business owner. I know what it takes to run a business. I've run several businesses in my life. I've also been a project manager for a major organization. So things like that I've done. I really don't like to really brag on myself. I just like to show what I can do. I'm a person of you earn what you keep and you work hard. What I want to do is I want to bring that back to the Cheyenne. I want to protect the entrepreneurship, and I also want to protect the businessman. I'm big into business. I know how to run a business. So that's basically what I'm at. That's what I got.
Well, thank you, Mr. Reyes, Mr. White, Mr. Laybourne, for those introductions. It's now time for the questions. Candidates, you did receive a list of questions that were developed by a team of league members. And so we are going to have the order of responses rotate through the candidates. So we will start with Mr. White, the first question going to you. And that first question is, what do you believe are the greatest challenges and opportunities currently facing Cheyenne, and why?
Well, I think the major issue facing Cheyenne right now, without question, is the lack of affordable housing. And that's going to be one of my top goals going forward. It's been one of council's priorities over the past year. I've sponsored several changes to our UDC code to try and give builders more flexibility and freedom to build what we need. The WCDA housing studies projected that Cheyenne's going to be 5,000 units short by the year 2030. I think the housing study conducted by our local Chamber of Commerce pretty much bared that projection out to be true. So we need to continue looking at the UDC code to see what makes sense. The UDC code was put in place over 20 years ago. So what fit then may not fit now. We should continue working with the Wyoming Association of Municipalities to try and get our legislature to add more options to fund affordable housing. And we have to address this crisis. Housing is too expensive and we don't have enough units. And the lack of housing is hurting development of our workforce, as well as our ability to expand existing business and recruit new ones. So that's the number one issue that I see.
Okay, Mr. Reyes, we'll go to you. What is your response to what you believe are the greatest challenges and opportunities currently facing Cheyenne, and why?
Well, I would have to second that with Mr. White. Housing is a big issue that we have in Cheyenne. I feel that we need to address that issue, but there's also other issues here in Cheyenne. I feel that a lot of the people here in Cheyenne are struggling, and the way that they're struggling is they're struggling day to day. I mean, you look at inflation is going up, cost is going up, energy is going up. I mean, if you look at what's going on, we just had an 18% increase rate on our utilities, not our utilities, but our sewer and water or trash and pickup. It was one of those ones that were just increased. Things like that is hurting our families. And what we need to look at is we need to look and see what we got to do to not continue to increase costs for these families, but to keep it the same or lower it. I mean, we can't continue to have our families in our community continue to pay, and not getting anything out of it. The cost of living is going higher. I feel like the city needs to, cut back on our spending and just kind of manage our funds here, and that way our families can have a break. But yes, I would second that with Mr. White, that housing is a big issue in Cheyenne, and hopefully we could come together and fix something. It is something that we need to do for our families here in Wyoming or in Cheyenne.
Thank you, Mr. Laybourne. Now to you. What do you believe are the greatest challenges and opportunities currently facing Cheyenne, and why?
Well, the greatest challenges and opportunities are mixed up in one big ball. And we are experiencing growth like we never have before. We recently went on a tour with the Leads organization to look at those data centers that are coming in South Cheyenne, and it was really eye-opening to me. So when that growth happens, you have the roads, the sewer, the water, you have all of the growth elements, and we're seeing that on the east side now. But Ward 1 has its own unique considerations, and some of them are very, very difficult. Certainly the unhoused population and the issues that are surround camping are one that I've dealt with extensively. I think that we absolutely need to pay attention to those infrastructure issues downtown. So maintaining and increasing is a difficult process. I would say that if you look at our budget that we adopted, you'll see that we have extensive reserves. We have taken on new employees. We have really taken a look at how those things all come together. And of course, that includes housing. But basically, I hope people understand that the growth that we're experiencing and the management of it can't let the existing neighborhoods, the existing city struggle. And so I'm very interested, and I've worked for a long time on abandoned buildings and on basically maintenance issues. So we have to do both, and I think we're doing a pretty fair job at doing that.
Right, thank you. On to the next question. And Mr. Reyes, we'll start with you for a response to this question first. How would you prioritize funding for different types of city amenities distributed throughout various neighborhoods? What would be your highest priority, lowest priority? You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, perfect. Well, as you guys know, I'm a director of the volleyball program here in Cheyenne. What I have noticed that I have seen is that we have a lot of programs in the city under Parks and Recs that really are a hinder in our community, not a hinder in the aspect of what the services that they offer, but as what we have to pay for to have these things. Prime example, the Ice Skin Event Center, 4 years ago, it cost about $600,000 for us to operate, and now it's up to $900,000 for us to operate the Ice Skin Event Center. Those are things that we need to start looking at and seeing, are those things really profitable for us to have, or do we need to cut these programs? Because it is something that the taxpayers continue to just dump money into. What I would do is I would evaluate each program to see what is profitable and what's not profitable. And unfortunately, this is something that the city runs, and it's not to make profit, but we have to operate within common sense. In a business, in a private business, if the business is not doing well, most of the time we shut the doors. We can't just go out to the bank and continue borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. Unfortunately, that's what our city continues to do, and we need to put a stop to that. So how I would do it is, for the city amenities, we have certain things that we need to have, and we should have, but then we have things that are outside of our scope, and those things we should not continue to dump money into. And what I would do is basically look and see which program is worth keeping and which program is not worth keeping. And that's basically what we would have to look at. That's how I would look at it, as a business monologue or as business plan.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Laybourne, what is your response to how you would prioritize funding for different types of city amenities distributed throughout various neighborhoods? What would be your highest priority or lowest priority?
Well, my highest priority is doing what we've been doing, and that is really looking at a lot of those amenities, and particularly recreation amenities. There's been a great controversy in this city for many years about a recreation center. Well, we don't have a recreation center. We have a variety of sites that have very high quality programs. Municipal pool, ice and events, the civic center. These are all programs that have really proven themselves, in my opinion. And of course, we got to remember that the costs of the city go right up with inflation, just as the individual does. So I've been very involved in making sure that we try to do the same things in Ward 1, and particularly the south side, that we do elsewhere. And that's not always an easy thing to do, but I think generally we have some amenities that we certainly should be proud of. The Greenway with almost 50 miles stretches throughout the entire city. So we like to say free, fun, friendly. So there are amenities that we've built and we maintain. And I think it's very important to look at that in terms of the whole city. And when you do, you see that parks, I don't know exactly what you're considering to be amenities in total, but I'm proud of the amenities that we provide, and they have been supported particularly in the sixth penny elections that I've been involved with for many years. That's really where we get that funding mechanism to make those opportunities happen. And that's obviously supported by the voters. Our last sixth penny election was really overwhelming in the support that we had across the board. And it really is a great tool for Laramie County as well as Cheyenne to be able to look at and plan and execute on those amenities. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Laybourne.
I didn't see the flashcard. Where should I look for that?
Mary, will you please, our timer, will you please show the timer cards again?
Are you on gallery view? If you're on gallery view, you will see it. And that's up in the upper right corner. You can go to gallery view and then you'll see her.
Okay.
Instead of speaker view. Okay, Mr. White, now to you. How would you prioritize funding for different types of city amenities distributed throughout various neighborhoods? What would be your highest priority, lowest priority?
Well, I think my highest priority, Kari, would be to continue maintaining what we have. Cheyenne is very lucky in that we have a very robust recreation and events staff, and we're blessed to have a lot of parks distributed throughout our community in all sorts of neighborhoods. And so, maintaining those parks costs money. We recently, our gymnastics program was filled to capacity with a waiting list of over 200 youth. And so we had far outgrown what we had. I thought the council made a great visionary decision in investing in building a new gymnastics facility. And I had a chance to attend that. The kids were beside themselves with joy. So looking at where we can add, I think Pete makes a good point in that the Greenway is a living Greenway. We should never say, okay, we're expanding this section, now it's done. As the community continues to grow, I think the Greenway is going to need to grow with it. All of these things do cost money. The Ice and Events Center was kind of a hindrance on the city for a while. That is now revenue neutral. It is not losing nearly the money that it was 4-6 years ago. I believe, like I said, it's revenue neutral, so it is making money now. But just continuing to look where we can grow as the city grows and maintaining what we have.
All right, thank you, Mr. White. Now we're going to move into a flash feedback portion of our forum. Each candidate will work through one by one, giving you a prompt, and you'll have around 30 seconds to say what your thoughts are around that topic that is given to you. We're going to have our Zoom master, Karen Meister-Emmerich, provide the prompts for the flash feedback. Karen?
Hello, I'm Karen Meister-Emmerich, and I saw this done at a forum, and I thought it was an interesting way to have people just kind of give a quick view on a quick topic. So 1 to 2 sentences, very quick. And I want to start with you, Jeff. And your term is Belvoir Ranch.
We are getting towards completion. We passed funding for a trailhead and parking area there, and we had a work session last week that indicating that soon there will be about 17 miles of trails that will be open to the public. I know we get a lot of questions about that and have for my entire time on council, and there is light at the end of that tunnel.
Thank you. Okay, next, Miguel.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and start your video too, please.
You know, I'm having technical difficulties with my video.
Are you?
My
Okay, well,
computer
we
just-
can hear you.
Okay.
Your word is data centers. 30 seconds,
Data.
couple sentences.
Excellent. I see that the data centers are going to be a pretty good, you know, addition to the city of Cheyenne. It's going to bring a great amount of jobs and also, you know, a lot of economy to the city. I do look forward to seeing them coming in. So that's what we got there. That's all I have for the data centers. I'm not very up to par with them.
Thank you. And Pete, the last word is zoning for you.
Well, we haven't done the kind of job with zoning I wish we would have. I think it's very important to maintain our residential neighborhoods. I think that zoning is a critical piece, and it is a difficult one. But I think we are basically learning from some of our past mistakes and have a process that is pretty open, pretty accountable. But I can tell you that zone changes can be extremely controversial. But I believe in zoning, and I certainly like working with our present planning commission.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That was a quick, fast feedback. Hope you enjoyed it. And it's nice to get a little bit of a comment about different topics.
All right, we'll go right back into our questions now. And we will once again start with Miguel Reyes to be the first responder on this question. And that question is, how can Cheyenne leverage its historical and cultural assets to support existing businesses, recruit new businesses, enhance community pride, and attract tourism?
Cheyenne can, you know, keeping our culture is really important in Cheyenne. We have a very robust culture, and I think that we need to keep it and work hard to continue that. For businesses and for, you know, attracting more people to come to our city and to promote tourism. I feel that we need to go outside this spectrum. I feel that we need to go, you know, advertise. We need to advertise our businesses. We need to advertise our community. We need to go out there and show what Cheyenne's all about. We have, you know, I use my program in my CVL program. We use different types of platforms. We use the Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. We use a lot of different platforms to promote our program. And I feel that the city needs to do the same. But in the same, we need to keep our values, our culture as well. I've noticed Cheyenne Frontier Days would be, could use more promotion to bring in more people to our community, to show them our culture. That's the way I would do it. Just use more promotions. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with this computer stuff.
No worries, we can hear you clearly. Thank you for your response.
Thank
and
you.
Now we'll go to Mr. White. How can Cheyenne leverage its historical and cultural assets to support existing businesses, recruit new businesses, enhance community pride, and attract tourism?
I think arts and culture are an important component of the overall quality of life for every person in Cheyenne. And so we have an amazing and rich history. We're going to celebrate the 128th edition of Cheyenne Frontier Days later this month. Our volunteers with Chispa put on an amazing Hispanic festival in September. Our Art Cheyenne program puts on an art celebration. I believe that's August 10th. And all of these there was a Celtic Fest at Lions Park in June. And all of these programs work hand in hand with the philosophy of public-private partnerships. Visit Cheyenne works with all of them to promote all those events across the board on their website. And then Visit Cheyenne also works with the Wyoming Department of Tourism. All these events go out, they're volunteer driven, but they go out and they get sponsors. So you have a public-private partnership that's really building on the history of our past and sort of guiding us into the future as well. So we're really blessed. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention what John and Renee Jelinek have done with the Lincoln Theater downtown. They took an abandoned, dilapidated building, renovated it, restored it, was able to replace that facade with a Downtown Development Authority grant. And now we have one of the finest live music venues, not just in the state, but in the Rocky Mountain region. So all those things are important. I think they speak to younger residents. And I think they go a long way in helping us recruit businesses when businesses look at Cheyenne and what we have to offer.
Thank you, Mr. White. And now to you, Mr. Laybourne. How can Cheyenne leverage its historical and cultural assets to support existing businesses, recruit new businesses, enhance community pride, and attract tourism?
Well, clearly, the really important issue here, and it ties to what I was talking about, bringing the Greenway downtown, is the long anticipated and underway now plan for the Reed Avenue corridor, which is truly visionary. It's difficult sometimes to make that vision occur. It connects to the 15th Street, which is, you know, that which was a pretty quiet street, has seen a lot of private investment over the past few years. And so really, I think that when we look at our heritage, we have to look at one major problem that I know it's easy to promise, but I certainly hope that if I'm reelected, I'm going to focus on the Heinz building in the whole until we have that public-private partnership that can make it happen. Because really, when you have that in the heart of the city with the plaza across the street and the Capitol Avenue with the Capitol and the depot, you can't have that continue as it has been. I think that's really time we all got together and focused on the fact that public money is going to have to be involved. Now, we're going to be meeting shortly here and working on the existing terminal out at the airport that has been there since 1961. So it hasn't been in use for quite a while, but when I look at that trifecta, I hope that we can make happen with the Old West, the Botanic Gardens, and a aviation and arts facility in the historic terminal. You would really have the kind of tourism attraction that could make a big difference. I think that it's a very competitive business. I think that our Visit Cheyenne is promoting it quite a bit, but I think you have to have that high quality of opportunities for people to come visit. And I think that that's something we really need to take a look at. I think that the music scene.
Thank you, Mr. Laybourne.
Really
Pete, I'm
come
sorry,
along.
you're not seeing the timing cards.
Nope, I'm not.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. It is our final question before we go to closing from each candidate. And we will start with Jeff White for this question. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being very unsafe and 5 being very safe, how would you assess the current state of public safety in our city? And please explain.
I'd probably have to say about a 3.5. And I say that knowing full well that the men and women in our police and fire departments do an amazing job. And our council over the last 4 years has worked very hard. We've added 9 firefighters to staff. We've added over 10 police officers to staff. So public safety is a concern for all of us. Now, if you look at the data, violent crime numbers have gone down, but smaller crime like theft, shoplifting, that has gone up. And I think part of that has to do with the increase in the homeless population that we've seen. And also we're, like it or not, and every community is fighting this problem. We have a very bad fentanyl epidemic. And all that contributes, it's a vicious circle. And we are talking about it as a community. In fact, there's a community forum next Tuesday night at the public library to talk about this issue. The lack of mental health services, which funding for some reason continues to get decreased at the state level. I think that makes a bad problem worse. So I do think we're a safe community. Pete and I teamed up and sponsored that camping ordinance for the folks who are living in Crow Creek, creating a safety and health issue there. We didn't know if it was going to pass muster. The U.S. Supreme Court declared last week that it is legal to have those types of prohibitions, and so that will stand. But any support we can continue to give to our firefighters and law enforcement is paramount, and we always look at that very closely at budget time.
Thank you, Mr. White. And now to you, Miguel Reyes. What is your response to, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being very unsafe and 5 being very safe, how would you assess the current state of public safety in our city? And please explain your answer.
I would say probably a 5. I'm sorry, a 3. And the reason behind it is I live on the south side. We see a lot of things over here, and I follow a lot of the things that are happening around the city. There is a rise in crime. The crime is getting worse here in Cheyenne. I'd have to argumentally with Mr. White there. The crime is getting worse. We've had several shootings in Cheyenne. I believe we've had at least 4 or 5 in the past 6 months. And I feel that our public safety, we can't always be there to protect the community, but I do feel that just because of the crime is getting worse and the type of crime, I feel that a 3 is where it needs to be. What we can do to make it better, that's something that we're going to have to come in as a community and figure that out, because the crime is getting worse. If you guys look at all the statistics, all the gun shootings, all the shootings that's happening here in Cheyenne, it's pretty severe. So with that said, that's what I've got.
Thank you. And now to Pete Laybourne. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being very unsafe and 5 being very safe, how would you assess the current state of public safety in our city? And please explain your answer.
I'd say it's a 4, and that comes from having lived here a long time and had a very neighborhood safe atmosphere. It certainly is changing. I think it's correct that gun violence is definitely changing here in Cheyenne and has recently. But I'd point out that we have a really quality police department and always have. And that is, they're able to recruit and retain officers that practice community policing. And so it is disturbing to see these increases in property crime. It is very much a concern of mine. Fire safety. I think that one of the things that I would point out that I don't know if it's a crime, but we are definitely working towards a better approach to speeding in the neighborhoods that leads to accidents. And so it's, the police department handles a lot of things. And so I think overall they do well, but I'm particularly pleased with all the effort Cheyenne has always made with the private side to try to help people, whether it's at the community shelter or the churches or organizations that really reach out and try to help people who are in trouble. But it's a difficult world right now, and I think we're a lot better off than many of the other places that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the question portion of our forum. So now each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes to give any closing statements that they would like to give to help the voters get to know them just a little bit better. And so for this portion, we will start with Mr. Laybourne. You have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, thank you. I believe that having served on the council through several mayors, I believe that right now we have a council that's pretty much working in pretty good harmony, and certainly not in lockstep, but having an ability to go through and work with the current administration in terms of some of the issues that have come up during this conversation, in terms of hiring more people in public safety, in terms of management of our amenities, in terms of how we can make sure that the voters understand what we're spending their sixth penny money on. And particularly, again, I look at my great interest as a downtown property owner in continuing the momentum that we are currently enjoying down in downtown. So that's there's a lot of good things going on, but it takes attention, and it really takes experience. Certainly, as an incumbent, I believe that I have a lot of experience with the realities of these matters. It isn't just a matter of cutting here and adding there. You really have to understand the programs and really pay attention to what the staff is suggesting and what the conditions that are brought to us by national and international economics. I mean, that's really a factor that we don't control, or inflation. We don't, all we have to do is try to manage the best we can. I think we've done a fairly good job. I hope that I'll be able to continue. I've worked with Jeff for quite a while. It does make a difference to be able to go to the other council people and ask them what their experience is in these various areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to Miguel Reyes, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Excellent. Well, I care about families. I care about the youth in our community and the businesses in our community. I believe that we can make a big change in deregulating a lot of regulations in Cheyenne that hinder businesses' growth. I also believe that we can build better programs with lesser money invested. I've done it. I can do it. I've ran a small profit. I'm an owner of a nonprofit organization. It's called the Reyes Foundation. This Reyes Foundation program focuses on developing youth into great athletes and great leaders. Those are the programs that I love building. I love being a part of the community. I love building young youth and making them leaders. Things that I bring to the table are leadership in the private sector. The private sector has to survive on its own and on its own merits. Government doesn't have to survive. It can fail and fail and fail and continues to have backing by the people. Private sector doesn't. So we have to be more adaptive to make things work. I will bring that into city council. I will bring that kind of mentality. I feel that being an incumbent for 20 or 15, 10 years, I think that mentality kind of goes away. I do believe in term limits. I believe in term limits of 2 terms. I don't plan to serve more than two terms in this. After that, somebody else can take my chair. But I feel that new, fresh ideas are necessary because things get stagnant. Things need to resolve quickly. Our issue is a problem. We need to fix it and fix it quickly, not continue to burden the citizens with things that are, within our control. That's why I'm running. Well, that's one of the reasons I'm running. There's many reasons, but I feel that I probably am the best candidate for this particular chair. I could work with any of these people to make it better for our community.
Thank you, Mr.
As you can
Reyes.
tell. Oh, good. I'm done. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now to Jeff White, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you, Kari. During my time on city council, it's been a great honor to represent the residents of Ward 1. And I have to be honest, I've never seen such energy within our downtown, within our community as what's currently taking place right now. And I'd like to think that I've had a small part in that. We've seen massive investment by private business into the West Edge. We've seen public-private partnerships come together to try and move the Reed Avenue corridor plan forward, which is happening. We are going to be getting a final plan or a master plan modification of what 15th Street might look like going forward. We've completed the 17th Street lighting project, which I think you wouldn't think something like that might make a big difference. But when folks come from out of town and they look down 17th Street in the evening, they look at me and they're like, am I in Cheyenne? And they are. And so we've done a good job. And through that time, I've tried to make sure that respect, diversity, inclusion, and access are always part of any conversation I have, whether it be with a business owner or whether it be with a resident. And so, you know, the folks in Ward 1 know me, and they can continue to count on me to listen and be thoughtful, caring, and open about what my positions are and how I go about in my decision-making process.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Candidates for Cheyenne City Council, Ward 1, Pete Laybourne, Jeff White, Miguel Reyes. We really do appreciate the time that you gave us in order to participate in this